Welcome back, everyone, to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you're doing well. I've just been to the dentist, which is never a particularly pleasant gig. So I came home with a sore jaw, bit of numbness, like I've been whacked by a Tyson Fury right-hander or whatever. But yeah, I got home and I thought I'll do a little video about the never-ending debate, which is who is the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my top dozen fighters. And as with all these lists that you can make, it's like tomorrow I could wake up, look at this list and reshuffle them because the order they're in is always debatable. There are a couple of people who are missing who could have made it, and I debated putting them in. One is Tank Davis, who I'm telling you now isn't in my top 12, but it would probably be number 13. Yeah, it's a debate that rages and never ends. But while I'm doing my 12, what do I look for? Well, obviously I look for current form is important, but it's not everything. I look for longevity. I look for an overall career path, if you like, up to the present time. I look for coming back from adversity. I think I'm big on that. I don't mind defeats. It's how you react to them. Some fighters have, a sort of one signature victory and very little else because they're either too young or maybe they didn't go on to achieve a great deal after that. I mean, a good example, for example, is George Kambosos, who last year scored the biggest victory of the year for me personally. I thought that was the best victory by anyone in any weight division. Tremendous achievement, going to America, ripping those belts off Teofimo Lopez in his backyard, really. But that's only one victory, and that's not a slur against George Kambosos. I really like the guy. He really won me over with that the way he behaved, his demeanour, his confidence, the game plan. He was so disciplined, tremendous. But of course, he's got the Devin Haney fight coming up, and very soon, and we'll see what happens there. But so, how do you include everyone that you want to include in your top 12? You can't. Sometimes it's like pouring a litre into a pint glass. But anyway, without further ado, let me give you my top 12 in descending order, I should say. At number 12, I have got the old warrior Nonito Donaire. And it's hard to believe this guy's 39. He had his first professional fight in 2021. No, excuse me, what am I talking about? 2001, 21 years ago. That's what I should say. 2001. Hard to believe, isn't it? I mean, 21. Is it Bam Rodriguez is 21? He's a world champion, so he was being born while Nonito was having his first pro fight. I mean, it's amazing stuff. And he's won numerous titles from, flyweight upwards. He first really made a splash by flattening Vic Darchinyan in 5 rounds, and that was in 2007, I think. And if memory serves, that was for the flyweight title, and I can't remember which version of it was. I want to say WBC, but it might have been the IBF. But anyway, it was one of those world title. I think it was the IBF, or was it the WBC? I can't remember. But it was a flyweight title. He flattened Darchinyan, who at the time was, I think it was 28-0 or 26-0 or something. Had been running ramshot over everyone, undefeated. Along comes Donaire and flattens him with a left hook. And that left hook of Donaire's, even today, is one of the most potent punches in boxing. It's one of the great punches of the last 10 years, that left hook from Donaire. Beautiful, beautiful executed punch. And Donaire has won various titles. He made the mistake of, and this is something that a lot of fighters, I think, make. I don't know why they do it, but they do it. By jumping up too many weight divisions, way too many weight divisions, for the sake of it. And I've always believed that if you can make a weight with discipline, good dieting, and make it comfortably, you stay there. You don't bulk up, you don't pump yourself up and jump up a weight just to pick up another belt. I'm far more impressed with people that clean up in one division than I am with people that weight jump. Otherwise, you end up with a Adrian Broner situation. a 4 weight division world champion, you know. Yeah, right. What's his signature win, Broner? Answers on a postcard. But with Donaire, we're talking a guy who went up too far. He went to featherweight, got chinned by Nicholas Walters, lost to Carl Frampton. Then he went down in the ripe old age of whatever it was, 35, whatever he was at the time. Was runner-up in the World Boxing Super Series to none other than the monster, Inoue Inoue. But since that terrific fight, well, what a brilliant fight that was, he's come back and he's won world titles again. He beat 2 undefeated fighters in his last 2 fights. He beat Nordin Aboulay, who was 17-0 at the time, knocked him out in 4 rounds to become the WBC bantam champ. And what was the guy's name? Gabello, Raymark Gabello. I think he knocked him out also in 4 rounds. And he was undefeated. That was a defense of that WBC bantam title. So this is a real Indian summer for Nonito Donaire. A great fighter. But a cautionary tale to young fighters. Don't try and jump up the weights just for the sake of it. Live in your own weight division. When you outgrow it, you move up. Because it takes time to settle into a new weight class anyway. Don't make that mistake. So that's number 12. Number 11, I've got Shakur Stevenson. And I know what some people are going to say. Well, I've only got him at number 11. He's brilliant. And I keep hearing people waxing lyrical about Shakur Stevenson. And I get it. The skills that he's shown lately, certainly in his last 2 fights, Jamel Herring and Oscar Valdez. Yeah, startlingly good. Really talented kid. Only 24 years of age. But I've just said it. He's only 24 years of age. He's a kid. He's showed some sublime skills. But give him a chance to develop. I think people do tend to get a little bit carried away with these shooting stars. I want to see if he's a shooting star who burns out quickly, or if he's someone like an Nonito Donaire who carries on and can win multiple titles, unify a division, move up when he's ready, when he's prepared, when he should be moving up, win other titles. But a terrifically talented fighter. Very little to say. He was. People had doubts about him. They said he was a bit dull in the past. And I've got to be honest with you. One of his fights, I can't remember who it was against. I can't remember who it was. But I remember being bored stiff watching it. Might have been Joet Gonzalez. But I remember thinking, is this is so boring. But no, he's looked very exciting recently. So yeah, credit to Shakur Stevenson. I'm putting him at number 11 in my top dozen. All right. So number 10, I would say is going to be one of the little guys, another one of the little guys, Juan Francisco Estrada. And Estrada, now he would be higher on my list were it not for one thing, and that is that the last fight he had, which was over a year ago now, was against Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, and I think he lost that fight. He got a revenge win over it. They're going to have probably a rubber match at some point, but I definitely thought Gonzalez won that fight, and that's no disrespect intended to Juan Francisco Estrada, who is an excellent fighter. He has scored, of his 3 defeats, all his defeats have been on points. He's got 42 wins with 28 KOs. But of the three defeats, he's avenged 2 of them. One of them, like I say, against Chocolatito, which I agree with the decision. He beat Carlos Cuadras in a return, having lost to him. I can't remember what his 3rd defeat was. I know it was early on in his career, but I can't remember the name of the guy who beat him. I think it was like an 8-rounder or 6-rounder or something. Maybe a 10-round. I can't remember. But anyway, it wasn't at world level. It was probably a learning fight. And I like the fact that in a stacked division, those light flyweight, up to bantam, those are really stacked divisions. There's a lot of good fights, and they all fight each other. I suppose because they have to, because they can't make big money otherwise. But I really like Estrada. I think he's a very skillful fighter, and I like the fact he'll fight anyone. He beat Swissakat Sorungvasai. Did he lose to him? He did, didn't he? Was it him he lost to? Not Cuadras. Am I getting my wires crossed? Yeah, I know. You know, he split 2 fights with Saw Rungvisai. Lost the first one and then avenged the second one. I think it was him he lost to and not Courageous. Yeah, I might be getting my wires crossed there. But whatever the case, a very, very good fighter. Definitely up there. I've got him at number 10 in my top dozen. And I like these little guys. I think they're so underrated and they should be making millions and they're not. It's a shame. But anyway, at number 9, I've got someone you might have heard of, Tyson Fury. Who do I need to tell you about Tyson Fury? I think that even though, I mean, he hasn't retired. He says he's retired, but he hasn't. I think he suffers. I'm going to go through the bad, then I'll come to the very good. That puts him at number 9 in my top 10. Yeah. The bad is that he's done a Floyd Mayweather and he's pretended to retire, basically because he wants to see who's going to win out of Usyk and AJ. And if it's AJ, he'll probably come out of retirement for a massive, massive payday against the guy he thinks he can beat. And if it's Usyk, it'll be less of a payday and probably more risk, maybe. I don't like that side of Fury. I don't like the fact that he picks and chooses a bit too much for me. And when all is said and done, he's only had 5 world title fights, 3 against the same man. And also he was found positive. He did test positive for PEDs, which I never like. That's always a black mark against fighters. I don't care about what they achieve from there on in. And you know, if Jamel Miller came back and tested clean from here on in and won loads of titles, I still wouldn't give a shit. To me, he's still a punk. I'm not going to say that about Tyson Fury. But the good side, and why he gets into my top 10 is because, apart from the Dillian White fight, where he dominated White and knocked him out with one punch, he went over to Germany and beat Klitschko and ended that reign. I always found the Klitschko's to be quite dull. I was kind of glad when Fury won. My prediction was that Fury would go over there, outbox Klitschko and get robbed, but he didn't get robbed, did he? So, and I think going over there and doing that to a guy who was an undefeated champion for nigh on 10 years, wasn't it? Is a tremendous, tremendous, tremendous achievement. And going over to America and fighting Wilder, certainly the first time when he'd lost all that weight and he probably didn't have as much strength about him, to go there and after those 2 warm-up fights, was it 2 or 3? I can't remember. 2, wasn't it? Sefer Safiri and Pianetta. And then to do that to Wilder, and he did win that first fight. And, you know, especially the knockdown in the last round. He was knocked down twice, wasn't he, in the fight. But in the last round, that knockout, resurrection, rose from the dead routine that he did in the final round was amazing. And then, of course, he smashed Wilder up in 2 subsequent fights. Yeah, you know, he's achieved a great deal. And he does have tremendous skills for a man of that size. Where is he at in his career? I think he's retired. Is he going to come back? Yes. What will he have left? Remains to be seen. How would he fare against Usyk or Joshua? And he's going to fight one of them, I'm sure. But to me, you've got to clean up everything. You've got to, you know, it doesn't matter that Joshua's lost twice. You haven't beaten him. So don't give me that crap about, well, you know, he's lost twice. Why should I fight him? You should fight him because you ain't beaten him. Usyk's another one, you know. Fight Usyk. Oh, he's too small. He's a big middleweight. I mean, what a ridiculous thing to say. No. That's the side of Fury I don't like. But I'm not denying his ability. In my top 12, he's number 9. Number 9 pound for pound. Well, that brings us to number 8, who is Saul Alvarez, Canelo. I put at number 8. Now, I cannot talk about Canelo without, again, talking about the fact that he's tested positive for performance-enhancing drugs. And I'm not going to apologise for that, and I'm not going to stop talking about it, because moving up and down the weights, I'm very, very suspicious of how he did it, of how he looked so strong. So his body looked manufactured. It always looks manufactured to me, illegally manufactured. But the fact of the matter is, he hasn't been tested positive since he had that tainted beef. And if you believe that, I've got some swampland you might want to buy. But he did unify the super middleweight division in, what was it, a year or so, less than a year. incredible, really. If he was clean and he did that, that was a hell of an achievement. But this is it, you see. You never know, do you? You never know. He lost to Bivol, but again, I don't think losses define a fighter. It's how you come back from them. And he's come back from a loss before to Mayweather and done well. And there's no doubt he does have tremendous skills. And that's why it's such a shame that there's the black mark over him. I don't like that black mark. I don't like people that test, negative for, or rather positive for PEDs. It just drives me balmy thinking about it. Yeah, so I don't really need to say much more about Canelo, do I? We all know where he's at. We all know what he is. We all know what he does. So he's at number 8. At number 7, I've got Jermell Charlo. 35 wins, 1 defeat, 1 draw. Recently unified the super welterweight division. Tremendous achievement. I've got nothing but respect for people that clean up in a division. I think it's absolutely tremendous. And the fact that he's avenged his loss to Tony Harrison by knockout, and also the draw he had against Brian Castano. He knocked him out in 10 very recently. Yeah, I've got a lot of time for Jermell Charlo, who's definitely, at this point in their careers, achieved more than his brother. His brother's undefeated, but so what? I don't, again, undefeated records don't mean much to me. So Jermell Charlo, yeah, he's flying. He's absolutely flying. Number 7 in my list. At number 6 is someone who is under the same umbrella as Mr. Charlo, and that is Errol Spence. Now, Spence, we know about Spence. Terrible car crash. Could he come back from it? I think he's looked really good since the car crash. I don't know what the hell it is, but against Danny Garcia, he looked good to me, very, very good. And then against Ugas, he looked absolutely unstoppable. I know Ugas is a very good fighter, top 5, top 7 welterweight, but he just smashed right through him, and very, very impressive performance, Errol Spence. Yeah, I mean, I just think he's tremendously talented. I always have done. He's huge for the weight. I always worry, can he still make the weight? But apparently he can, Anyway, that's number 6. Number 5, Vasily Lomachenko. Some people are going to say, why is he number 5? You've got him too high. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. When you consider what he's achieved in only 18 fights, yes, he's got 2 losses. He lost to Orlando Salido in his second fight. To take on Salido, a tough, grizzled ex-champ veteran, and to take him down to the wire in only his second pro fight, I mean, come on, that's incredible. He lost to Teofimo Lopez, but I think it's kind of open secret, he had a shoulder injury, and since coming back from that shoulder injury, he stopped Nakatani in 9 and beat the living crap out of Richard Comey. Comey somehow made it to the end of the fight, and Lomachenko won a 12-round decision. I mean, I think he looks better than ever, even though he is no spring chicken. I think he's 34 now. But I just think he's an incredible fighter, Lomachenko. Absolutely incredible. And bear in mind, how much of his career has he spent at lightweight? He's not even a lightweight. But he's that good that he challenges himself to be great. He's not even a lightweight, man. And he's smashing up all these genuine big lightweights. Incredible fighter, Lomachenko. I love him. And yeah, 2 defeats on his record. But like I said, I don't give a damn about defeats. Defeats do not bother me at all. They just don't. I'm just not interested. At number 4, Terence Crawford. Won a belt at lightweight against Ricky Burns. Ricky Burns went the distance with Terence Crawford. That looks good on his record now. He's never been stopped, Ricky Burns. I think he's got 8 defeats, never been stopped. But then moved up, did Crawford, made a few defences of the lightweight title, moved up, unified at light welter or super lightweight if you prefer, and holds the WBO welterweight title currently. He's been frozen out by the PBC boys. None of them want to fight him. But he still looked terrific, looked fantastic against Sean Porter. Became the first man to stop Sean Porter. Really, really like Crawford. Tremendously talented. Very, very intelligent. Enormous ring IQ. Just very, very talented. And Crawford versus Spence has to happen if either of them wants to cement a place in history, maximise their legacy, maximise their place in history. They've got to fight each other. Otherwise, you know, it's going to be a shame otherwise, because they won't have left the mark that they should have done, both of them. They need each other. You need your dance partner. Anyway, number 3, I have got Anoya Inoue, who is currently the bantamweight. Which one is he? WBA and IBF and WBC? No, WBA, IBF. WBA and IBF bantamweight champion. I think that's what he is. Anyway, the point is, whatever these alphabet soup belts he holds, the point is that this is a tremendous wrecking ball of a fighter. He's called Monster, and my God, that's true. He is a monster. But it isn't just that raw, savage power that impresses me so much. The fight against Nonito Donaire, a 12-round blitzkrieg where Donaire had am I right in saying Donaire had a cracked jaw? But more to the point, Inoue had a fractured eye socket and still carried on fighting for 12 rounds. And an amazing, brilliant fight that was, against a totally reborn, revitalised Donaire. And Inoue I just think he impressed me so much in that fight. Going the distance, surviving adversity, crisis, without so much as a blink. And grinding out and eventually flooring a really talented foe in Donaire. And that showed that he's more than just pure power. That showed that he's more than just a banger, more than just a slugger, more than just a crude, kill or be killed guy. This is a very, very good box fighter. And I love him to bits, and he just smashed through the weights. I mean, it's interesting because he won his first title at light flyweight, and then he jumped right to superfly. He didn't stop off at flyweight. But some of these wins he's got. I mean, Juan Carlos Payano went out in a round, and what was it? The one that really impressed me earlier on in his career. I can't remember the fight. No, it's gone. I was going to mention one of his earlier fights where I just thought, God almighty, this bloke's incredible. Anyway, yeah. And Anoya Inoue, he's got the rematch with Nonito Donaire coming up. Really looking forward to that. That's going to be a brilliant fight. Yeah. Number 3 is for me. Number 2, Alexander Usyk, another fighter that I'm sure you're familiar with. Undisputed at cruiserweight, cleaned up totally, unified. Dominated the division, nothing else to do there. And against good men as well. Moved up to heavyweight, had 2 fights where he looked so-so. And then fought Anthony Joshua and dominated Joshua. And had there been a 13th round, well, Joshua wouldn't have come out for it, because at the end of that 12th round, Joshua he needed oxygen. Usyk was brilliant in that performance against Joshua. Really, really terrific. And people say, is he big enough for heavyweight? The man's 6'3". And he probably weighs 220 in natural weight now. So, yeah, he's big enough, all right. And I would love to see him fight Tyson Fury. Would really love it. I think he's a great, great fighter. And how many fights has he had? He hasn't had many. Has he had 20 or less than 20? But what a fighter. What a technician. Very, very similar to Lomachenko, of course, because he's trained by Papa Lomachenko. Yeah, and he's number 2 in my little top 12, top dozen, So that only leaves one space, and that's the top space, number 1. Who have I got in the top space at number 1? I bet you're going to say, what? Some of you, not all of you, some of you, would you know what? Because my number 1 is Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, who I think is just the most magnificent boxer around today. And there are some good ones around. I've just mentioned a bunch of them. What a wonderful fighter this guy is. 34 years old, from Nicaragua. Lost a highly questionable decision to Juan Francisco Estrada, who I've also got in my top 12, as I've just said. That was only his 3rd defeat. He's got 51 wins, 41 by KO and 3 defeats. His other 2 defeats were to Swissakat Sorung Vasai. The first was very, very close. Could have gone either way. I wouldn't. He was floored in the first round, I think, of that first fight. Lost a majority decision. Could have gone either way. Second fight against Rungvisai, he was wiped out in 4 rounds, and that was back in 2017. Now, if you'd said 5 years later that this guy would still be at the absolute zenith of his career, of his talent, at 34, and would be toying with as good a champion, as violent a champion, as powerful a champion as Julio Cesar Martinez. This, of course, was earlier this year, it was in March, wasn't it? This year. And just bouncing him, not knocking him down, but just, I mean, Martinez couldn't do anything. And he's a good champion himself down at flyweight. But he took on, it was a late notice thing, he took on Chocolatito at Superfly, and he's got outclassed. If you'd have said 5 years after being knocked flat by Rungvisai that Chocolatito would still be looking that good, no one would have believed you. I wouldn't have believed you. Oh, well, I would have thought it was highly unlikely. But he's rebuilt since those 2 losses, back-to-back losses against Saul Rungvisai. Beat Khalid Yakfai, who was undefeated. Beat Israel Gonzalez on points. Beat Martinez on points. So, and it's just the way his boxing skills, the way, it's such minimal movement. It's so educated, it's so structured. It's beautiful to watch. You know, his footwork's incredible, absolutely incredible. And he's beaten, Cuadras and McWilliams Arroyo when he had something left. And I mean, he beat, what was it before? That was Valoria, I think. And see, I didn't become that aware of this guy until probably about 2014, maybe 13, 14, 15. But if you go back previously, I mean, you're talking about a guy who was, WBA minimum weight champion, and he just moved through the weights. And you see, I think with the Saul Rungvisai defeat, the first one, the second one I think was down to the fact that his mind wasn't on the job because there was a bereavement. Was it his father died, or his trainer died, or someone died, and he was suffering the bereavement? But the first one to Saul Rungvisai, to me, this is another example of someone jumping up in the weights too quickly. You need time to readjust. I know the smaller guys only jump up 3 pounds sometimes, but I just feel that he was another one that was trying to move up too quickly. I've won this belt, I'll go up another division, and eventually you sort of plateau out. Kind of like Canelo did with Bivol, I suppose. Yeah, wonderful fighter. So I've got him at number 1, Roman Gonzalez. And like I say, tomorrow I could look at these 12 and go, oh, I'm going to shuffle them, I'm going to rearrange them. Or maybe I'd bring someone else in. Maybe I would take one out and put Tank in or something like that, Yeah, so what do you think? That's my 12, my top 12. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Give me your 12 or 10. Let me know. Anyway, thanks for listening. This has been a long old video, probably the longest video I've ever done, but I've got to have something to take my mind off the old dental trip. So thank you for listening. If you're still with me, leave your comments below. If you're new to the channel and could subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Like the video, that always helps the channel as well. And we shall speak again. Thank you very much. Take care. Enjoy your day. Bye for now.